Oh, sure. Yeah,
Still keep in touch. Yeah.
Warm welcome to family and friends of Charles David Flowers. Welcome to this time of abiding memory and abundant hope. We gather in this place of sanctuary on this 6th day of June to lament the passing and commemorate the life of Chuck Flowers, an unrepeatable expression of the human spirit in his love for family and friends, his passion for nature and travel, his enthusiasm for fixing whatever needed fixing, his love for fishing, hiking, long drives, puzzles of all types, and of course his profound enjoyment of Indiana University and all things Hoosier. This husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, relative to many, colleague, friend, Chuck Flowers, an unrepeatable expression of the human spirit who for 82 years made this spinning blue-green planet his home. So we are here today to recall his life, his legacy of love and caring for others. I begin with words from Edna St. Vincent Millay. Mindful of you, the sodden earth in spring and all the flowers that in the springtime grow. Dusty roads and thistles and the slow rising of the round moon. All throats that sing the summer through and each departing wing and all the nests that the bared branches show. And all winds that in any weather blow and all the storms that the 4 seasons bring. And you no more on your exultant feet. You no more up paths and only mist and morning dew, or watch the wind or listen to the beat of a bird's wings too high in air to you. But you were something more than strong and sweet and fair. And the long years will remember you. From Edna St. Vincent Millay. At this time forward, I'd like to invite Pam forward. She and Chuck shared 59 years of wedded life together. So I invite her forward to kindle our flame. We kindle this flame in memory of Chuck and the celebration of his life. And in doing so, we recognize this as a time of sorrow as well as heartfelt remembrance as we search for consolation and serenity in the face of loss. And this flame is our hopeful quest for love and acceptance. Thank you, Pam, and all of those years honorable note. And I'll have a musical interlude. Chuck Flowers, Jr. Our music today is accompanied by the cicadas. Holding us all in space. Chuck loves nature so much, it just feels like the right thing to have, holding us in space. So we're gathered here this afternoon to affirm the wisdom which holds each of us within our own faith traditions, whatever those may be, or our philosophical frameworks. But it is death that has gathered us here for the end of a life, and that is the life of Chuck Flowers. So let us mourn, for we have suffered a loss. Chuck will be missed in the lives of so many. This afternoon we must honor this sorrow. Too, we will honor the gifts he brought to this life, which will live on in the hearts of those gathered here this afternoon, and many, of course, beyond these walls. When a beloved person dies, family and friends gather. It's for many reasons. Life has touched us with grief, and we need one another's company for warmth and reassurance. And just to be together. Sometimes to look into a friend's face and see the common expression of hurt helps alleviate that loneliness of our feelings. And it also draws our hearts together in comfort. This afternoon, then, we bring our sadness to this place. And we also bring our gratitude for the time shared with Chuck. He did live a very rich and meaningful life, and we're going to hear about some of that. He shared that bounty. He really shared that bounty with so many. And he was kind and thoughtful. He was gentle. He was a man. He was a gentleman. So in his memory, we are here to say yes to life's greatest expression, which is love. Love believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love, even in the midst of loss, never ends. The love of a husband, a father, a grandfather, a brother, colleague, an IU sports fan, along with Pam. In so many other ways, you are all related to him. In this time together, may we be aware of the spirit of love that brings us together today. And be aware of that comfort we find in such a gathering with community and family. May we affirm the source of being which is common to us all, together as we search for meaning in the face of loss. One thing I'd like to say is that when a death is unexpected, yeah, Chuck was 82, but this was unexpected. There was a shock at the beginning, and grief works in a little different way than if we've been somebody who is slowly passing over time. And I'd like to remind everyone that on this time scale, it seems about, some of you will be in touch with family every week, checking in. Those of you who may not, kind of look at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Just tuck that away in your heart right now as a time to reach out. I have never heard anybody say people were reaching out too much to me. But particularly that 6 month time, many of us, our lives have gone on. And we might feel that tug to reach out and just say, hey, how you doing? And we dismiss it. But 6 months is a very important time. There is a reality that sets in with all of us in terms of grief. So please tuck that away in your hearts as well. And Pam, if you start getting too many calls of people reaching out, you let me know, because you will be my first. And I'll have to change what I'm saying right now. But it's love that will urge that. That kind of love is never wrong. These words from Mark Twain. Love came at dawn when all the world was fair, when crimson glories bloom and song were bright. Love came at dawn and when hope's wings fanned the air and murmured, I am life. And love came in the evening, when the day was done. When heart and brain were tired and slumber oppressed, love came at evening and shut out the sinking sun. And whispered, I am rest. From Mark Twain. There is a certain grace we hear in our bodies, in our spirits, all of us in different ways. But often music brings that to us and it holds us in our space and it ministers to us. So during this musical interlude, I invite you to allow this music to minister to you, allow your own memories of Chuck to rise as they do, as well as honor the loss in your own hearts. Our gift of music. Now we have some time for personal remembrances, and I think of this time as each person brings a picture or like a quilt, a piece of a quilt, and each piece is sewn together with the other pieces as we hear the stories or hear the landmarks in Chuck's life. And we all put that quilt together in different ways, and we are able then to take that and wrap us around when we leave here and comfort ourselves with those thoughts and memories that we are provided here. Nobody can sum up anyone's life with all the words in the world, but we get these glimpses of grace as we give them. So, Chuck, you can.
And then most of you, as you came in, I am Chuck Flowers, Jr., son of Chuck and Pam. Today you'll be hearing from me, my sister Kim, Dad's dear friend Ken Howe and Lori Pruitt, and Dad's grandchildren, Olivia, David, and Amy. My dad was born on April 29th, 1939 in Indianapolis, son of Charles Klepfer Flowers and Margaret Olive Shirk Flowers. He was the oldest of 6 children. One of the first stories I heard about Dad's life was when he was in 1st grade. His teacher noticed that he wasn't able to read what was written on the chalkboard. Later, when Dad got his first pair of glasses, he looked around the world with absolute amazement and closely observed and studied everything. The new world had opened up for this young guy. Another early story speaks to Dad's shyness, which most of us, some of you know more than others. Dad's family called him by his middle name, Dave, and they still do to this day. There's many people in here that know Dad as Dave. And when he went to school, though, his first teacher called him Charles or Charlie, and he never told this teacher or any future teacher or any of his classmates that he went by Dave. Thus, the name Chuck was eventually born to the world outside of his family. On a side note, it's an honor to name our son David, and this time the name Chuck. Dad's cousin, Andy Carr, told me that there was a strong emphasis on education in Dad's family. When Andy visited, he regularly saw them playing educational games of all types, and he was amazed at how smart and knowledgeable Dad and his sisters, Lonnie and Buzzy, were. There was just 3 at that time. At the same time, there was economic instability in Dad's family. And Dad, he never spoke of this. But over the years, I picked up family stories, like the bathtub being filled up with water before water got shut off, having no power in the house, and getting up from the dinner table hungry. There were also times in college when there wasn't enough to make ends meet. One of the reasons Dad loved IU so much, and why we requested donations be directed to the IU Student Emergency Fund, is that Dad was a beneficiary of this assistance. One time, Dad was getting ready to register for classes and realized he didn't have enough money. So he went to see Bill Armstrong. At the IU Foundation, and Bill opened up the desk drawer, grabbed a wad of cash, and gave it to Dad. That's the way they did it those days. And Mr. Armstrong said that he would never need to pay the money back, but to maybe think about IU, when he was an alumni in the professional world. And Mom and Dad have contributed to IU for decades as a way of thanking. Dad supported himself through college by working 25 hours a week work study. In the summers, he worked 100 hours a week in construction, saving money for college, but also sending money home to help support his family, which at the time was back in New Jersey. To me, that is heroic. And again, we never talked about it. Never talked about it. Thus began a lifelong practice of helping others. Friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers have all benefited from Dad's selfless service to them in times of need. It was also very important to Dad to be a stable provider for his family, and he was. Then, in the fall of 1961, he bumped into a co-ed from Madison, Indiana. This later turned out to be my mom. When they met, Mom told him that she was a graduate student resident assistant. But in actuality, she was a freshman who hadn't even yet turned 18. Dad believed her. And the rest is history. Mom also worked 20 hours a week in the work study program and had to report to a dorm cafeteria across campus by 6 a.m. every morning. One morning, as she left to go to work, she saw Dad standing outside her dorm. She asked him what he was doing there, and he said he wanted to escort her to work. I can see the words, but you can't say them. This began a daily tradition of Dad coming to meet Mom and walking her work until 6 a.m. in the morning. Then he'd go back to his dorm room and sleep before his first class. Mom said the girls in her dorm were green with envy. Later that semester, just before Christmas break, Dad asked Mom to marry him. She accepted, and they were married on. It took a little while to accept. She didn't think about it. She just turned 18. She whoa. And they eventually married about 9 months later on September 2nd, 1962. I was born 9 months and 10 days after the wedding. The honeymoon. And that was in June of 63, and my sister Kim was born in December of 65. Dad began working at the IU Research Computing Center in 1964, working there for 26 years before transferring to a similar position at IUT in Indianapolis, where he finished out his career, working there 14 more years, retiring in 2004. Our family camped all the time when Kim and I were kids. We also traveled to different vacation spots throughout the country. This part's going to be hard to get through, too. Dad loved nature, just loved it. And however, our family's most cherished vacation memories come from years of camping with Birches. We went to a place called South Lake. And the two families share these warm memories of walking together to the boat ramp, hiking the Lakeshore Trail, picking blackberries, having more cheater bites than you could count, fishing and swimming, going to Gapsole to float out the store. They're laughing, they remember these. Waking up in the morning and wondering if the Birches were awake yet. And they were wondering if we were awake. Singing Three Little Angels, all dressed in white in Jeff and Tim's dream shows. And playing cards at the picnic table under a lantern light while we listened to Marty Brennan call the Big Red Machine games on the radio. After Kim and I graduated from college, we're out on our own, Mom got the idea of building a log home in Brown County. Dad never liked change and initially dragged his feet on that. And you guys know his personality. Yep. After years of cajoling, Dad finally came around and they found a piece of land. They built a log home on a 9-acre ridge in Brown County and created a refuge in nature for our entire family. It later became a grandkids' paradise. Mom had always had a special connection and fond memories of her grandmother. She decided that she wanted her grandkids to have this kind of connection with her and Dad. From the time each grandchild was born, Mom and Dad visited them 1 day a week. We call this Mama and Papa Day. Dad was an amazing grandfather. He let his granddaughters paint his toenails. And there's a picture back there where he's wearing a tiara at Annie's tea party for her 3rd birthday. And when David was about 10, he used to call his papa every night before going to bed. It's like for 6 months, maybe longer. Connecting with his papa gave David an inner knowing that everything was okay in the world. Over the past 6 months or so, I've been inviting Dad to go on another fishing trip with me, maybe even back to Canada. It's weird, but every time I drove by a body of water, I felt longing to be with him. I've rehearsed this, and it's not so surprising. I'd see a river or a lake, and I think of Dad. With like a higher intelligence inside of me, intuitively knew our time was limited. So while this last fishing trip won't be happening, at least on this plane, I am comforted by the vision of Dad fishing in heaven at a beautiful lake with his favorite fishing buddies. My Uncle Jerry. My 2 grandfathers and my great-grandfather, sure. His legacy of selflessness, humility, hard work, and service to others, devotion to family, and love of nature will live in all of us. Rest in peace.
I'm Kimberly Lynn Flowers Evans, daughter of Charles David Flowers and Pamela Ann Eckerty Flowers. I've been making notes about Dad and how I'm experiencing him in these days since his death. I've been recognizing his sweet essence in the air. The birds in the backyard of his home have been singing so loudly, much louder than usual. They've been serenading us each night as we sit on the back porch. Happy songs, joyful and free. A carpenter bee has been flying around too, and more than once it has stopped right in front of me and has stared me in the eye. This has never happened before. Interesting. And of course, the cicadas. They emerged just as Dad left us. Their quiet hum in the mornings has been a balm. The last time the cicadas were here was in 2004, and Dad was settling into his role as grandpa to Olivia, David, and Annie, who were 6, 4, and 1 at the time. These things comfort me as I imagine Dad trying out his newfound freedom from earthly existence. For the past 82 years, Dad has been an oak tree in our family. Tall, solid, steadfast, sheltering and protecting us. His sudden departure leaves the sun glaring in our eyes, the rain falling on our shoulders. It will take time to adjust. I have a few memories of Dad that I'd like to share with you. Dad had ethereal moments in his life. When he was an Eagle Scout, he took a trip to the White Mountains that was formative for him as a young man. At the top of the mountain, he found a spot to sit and take in the view. He described how he could see the mountaintops above the clouds. He took a towel out of his backpack to wipe the sweat off his brow, and a gust of wind caught the towel and lifted it straight up into the air where it hovered for a moment and then dropped straight back down. He described this, and every time he described this story, he relived the awe in that moment. When I was a little girl, I loved riding on Dad's shoulders. He'd swoop me up and set me there, always holding me securely. It was thrilling to be up so high and see the world from his vantage point. I remember looking down and watching his feet crunch on the gravel as we walked along the driveway. There was something so comforting to me in that. Dad and I spent many hours drawing and doodling together. He'd bring home stacks of computer printout paper, the old school kind with the pale green and white stripes, the holes punched along the edges. We'd lay on our bellies on the living room floor and draw horses and animals and silly scenes. Dad would always warm up by writing the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in sequence several times. I think his mind worked in numbers, but he also had a very poetic heart. On many of my birthdays over the years, he wrote me letters, tucking them into my card or sending them to me via email. These letters were so sweet and loving, they almost embarrassed me. I, like him, struggle to let love in sometimes. I was always so proud of Dad and how after age 50, he ran in the Indianapolis 500 mini marathons, the Brown County Reindeer Romps, and many other events. He especially loved running through the streets of his hometown, Indianapolis. Often when we visited Indianapolis, he'd drive us through his old stomping grounds in Irvington, Grant Street, Pleasant Run, and more. A true outdoorsman at heart, Dad, as Chuck said, loved camping and fishing. Some of his favorite spots included Lake Griffey, Yellowwood, and Lake Monroe. There was one time when he took us to Lake Monroe in his fishing boat, and a storm swept in while we were on the water. The waves started getting higher and higher, and this excited Dad. 2 little kids and his wife in the boat. In a departure from his usual protectiveness, he drove the boat directly into the waves. I remember hearing his laughter as I lay down on the bottom of the boat at night. Mom implored him to take us to shore, which he eventually did. We spilled out of the boat, somewhat shaken up by the experience. Then he got back into the water and towed the boat back to the Rand on foot. We created many happy memories with the Birch family, as Chuck also mentioned, in Saddle Lake, our magical place where we went camping many summers. Dad would spend hours on the lake with his favorite fishing companion and brother-in-law, Jerry. At the end of every camping trip, as we were packing up, he would always tell us to scan the entire campsite for any trash, cigarette butts, beer tabs. Not that we were all, we would say, Dad, that's not our trash. And he's like, always leave the campsite in better condition than you found it. As we all know, Dad was a hard worker and problem solver who sometimes had trouble expressing his emotions. But there were times when his laughter broke through with a force. Often while watching the Carol Burnett show or playing a family game, he would burst into uncontrollable laughter to the point of tears. And many of you, I think, have seen this, and we have pictures. These were moments when we'd run for the camera, joyful release. In many of the condolence notes we've been receiving, people have referred to how Dad loved Mom. I can think of no better experience that illustrates this than one that happened 3 years ago. His mom was in surgery for her heart bypass. There was a scary period of time where they had to take Mom's heart offline and have it beat artificially with some equipment so that they could do the surgery. And during that tense time, I can't remember how many minutes it was a while, a chunk of time. We were in the cafeteria, Chuck and Trent and me and Dad were sitting in the cafeteria waiting for the call from the nurse to let us know that Mom's heart was back on the line. And Dad was handling this with his usual calm presence, you know, it's gonna be okay, you know, let's talk about other things or whatever. But once the word came back that her heart was back on the line, beating on its own again, he just burst into tears and wept. And that just illustrated to me how much she loved Mom. And the last time I hugged Dad was on Mother's Day. Not knowing it would be the last time, I feel my arms around his solid, comforting frame. That's one of the mysteries of life. You often don't know when you'll be with a loved one for the last time. On that day, Dad talked fondly about he and Mom's 50th anniversary trip to Italy, their travels to St. George Island, Florida, his early days at Rural Computing Center, and the first dinner in over a year that he and Mom got to enjoy with their friends, the Pruitts and Johnsons. These are among the many highlights of his beautiful and full life. A life I am eternally grateful for. I love you so much, Dad. We all love you so much. I hope you know that. And I'm going to keep talking to you because I know you are still with me and with us. Always.
Thank you, Chuck and Kim. And in a moment, we'll hear from friends and grandchildren that we're going to have a little musical gift of music just to let our hearts be with these words of course. On a clear day, rise, look around you, and you see who you are. On a clear day, how it will astound you that the glow of your being outshines every star you feel part of, every mountain, sea, and shore you can hear from far and near, a world you've never heard before. And on that clear day, on that clear day, you can see forever and ever and ever
How many people would bless her too, Dad? I love this one. Thanks for being my second batch.
Thank you, Leslie Flowers and Mark Henderson. Thank you. Ken, and then Lori, and then we'll have Olivia, David, and Amy.
Excuse me, I tend to be a little emotional. I'm proud to say that Chuck Flowers was a friend of mine for 40 years, actually over 40 years. I met him at the computer center at IU in 1979, and we became quick friends. The computer center environment looked political. I came from the computing side. And Chuck helped me steer around a lot of problems, I should say. And we became quick friends. But Chuck taught me how to play racquetball. I didn't know how to play racquetball. I knew racquetball has some really nice, or did have some really nice sports. I suppose there's still there. But Chuck taught me how to play racquetball, and he and a friend of ours named John Olson used to go down to lunch every day and play racquetball. It was a lot of fun. It was good exercise, which I could use right now. But anyway, we would play probably 3 or 4 days a week. We were playing a lot. You play racquetball, that's a lot of exercise. But I was the young guy, and Chuck taught me how to play racquetball. So they all kind of took it easy on me, because they could all beat me. So one day, we went down to play racquetball lane, and John was a good show up for some reason. So Chuck and I were playing. Of course, Chuck taught me how to play racquetball, so you always want to beat the teacher. And I played as hard as I could play, trying to beat him. And actually, right at the last minute, I beat him. It was out of the maze. I was so happy that when I got down to the locker room, and we're down there, getting cleaned up, and I'm just nailing with it. I beat him. And he finally, just quietly, Chuck's temperament, he goes, well, he goes, I really hate to tell you, but I'm playing the left hand. That was my first shot. I don't think he ever won a game. Or at least one that was real. So anyway, Chuck and I were friends for a long time. We did the camping thing with families, did group camping, did group motorcycle rides. He was the best man in my way twice. Like him, never heard a second time. And we were great friends. The last few years, we've not been able to stay in touch. Mostly because I was working, we moved up to Indianapolis and you guys were still down here. And, so it was just harder to stay in touch. And I'm sorry about that. What I'm going to say is that I used to tell my children, when somebody fell up, one in the family passed away. But as long as you remember them, they're really not harm.
I have to choose between being able to see you or read this. I'm Lori Pruitt. And I want to start by thanking Cam and the family for letting me say a few words today. Oh, that lasts longer than this. It means a lot. It's a real honor. I knew Chuck since 1985 when I moved to Indiana to take a new job. And second day I was in Bloomington, a friend, John Olson, whose name's been brought up a few times today, said, I'm going out with some friends for happy hour, do you want to come? And I did, and two of the people I met that night were Chuck and Pam, and we've been good friends ever since. The first thing that came to mind when I thought about what I wanted to say today was how lucky we were to have Chuck in our life, and especially in the lives of our kids, Austin Moore. As a friend and a role model, he's always been very important to them. In fact, when Ross was 3, there's some comic relief here, so I'm not in a while. When Ross was 3, he started referring to Chuck as Blue Chuck. Now that's confusing if you don't know that at that age, Ross used the word blue to describe things that were really special. I can't tell you why. And he didn't use the phrase often, but when he did, you knew really precious to his little 3-year-old heart. And it was no surprise to anybody that Chuck got that blue designation. I can't talk about our friendship without Chuck without talking about our dinners. It's come up a few times, and I saw some pictures of them. Beginning in 1991 through 2019, Scott and I, Chuck and Pam, and our friend Scott and Julie Johnson got together 6 times a year, rotating along our homes for thematic dinners. We did international dinners, murder mystery dinners. We ate a lot of good food. We had a lot of fun. And along the way, we built and reinforced this just beautiful friendship. For the years that Chuck and Pam lived in Brown County, every August, one of those dinners got transformed into Brown County Weekend, or BCW, as we call it. And that was a whole weekend spent eating, fishing, playing games, and just enjoying each other's company. When I asked my family to share their memories, favorite memories of Chuck, it's not a surprise to me. A lot of those centered around BCW. Fishing with Chuck came up a lot, although I have to say, when the boys were little, he got to do precious little fishing. He spent most of his time baking hooks and untangling line. But as you might imagine, that was okay with Chuck. Morgan shared a memory that I thought was really precious, and I'm going to read it so you can hear it in her own words. She said, one thing that comes to mind is all the times I would just sit with him while he filleted fish when I was little at BCW. I would sit on a bucket and just watch. We didn't even talk that much. He was just so fluid, and it was mesmerizing. It's just a nice memory I have. Scott reflected on his fix-it discussions with Chuck when they worked through some needed car or household repair. And as I accumulated these memories, it struck me how these really seemingly mundane moments turned into these enduring memories. And I think that's a reflection of how much Chuck had to offer and how much he had to teach. He did so in this just very genuine and down-to-earth way. And you really didn't know you were being taught. He was open and honest and generous with everyone. He treated everyone as worthy of his time and his full attention. Even a little girl sitting on a bucket learning about filleting fish. And I think that was the key to why Chuck was such a good friend. Not just all his good qualities, and he had a lot, but how he made you feel about yourself. He had a gift for making you feel special and making you feel loved and bringing out the best in you. I know that these beautiful memories are going to keep Chuck very much alive in our hearts, even though he's not going to be physically with us. And we all have to process that in our own way, but I want to share something that's brought me comfort. And it's from the book, The Prophet, by Khalil Gibran, and I want to quote a single line. Life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. Life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. I love this metaphor of water because water is neither created nor destroyed. It's merely transformed. And I also like it because, as we've heard several times today, being outdoors in nature is Chuck's favorite place. I particularly like being near water. Brings me to one last memory that I want to share. On this date, in 1990, Scott and Ross, who was 10 months old at the time, and I were on a trip to Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. Chuck and Pam were with us on that trip. The first hike we took into the Teton was around Jenny Lake and up into Cascade Canyon. And at this time of year, Cascade Canyon is has a roaring stream coming down it because of all the snow out at the higher elevations. So we came around the lake and into the canyon, and hike a little ways, and you come to Hidden Falls, which is a beautiful place. And from Hidden Falls, there's a section of trail that's pretty steep up the side of the mountain. But if you make that climb, you're rewarded by coming out onto Inspiration Point. And it's true to its name, beautiful spot. You look out over Jenny Lake and the whole Teton Valley. It's awe-inspiring, and for me, at least, a reminder that I'm part of something that's bigger than myself. I have a very vivid memory of being on that point with Chuck that day. And it's a memory I hold very dear. And I can visualize that spot, even now. And I can think of that water as Jack's beautiful spirit roaring down that mountain and becoming one with that lake above. Thank you for letting me just felt those somebody else's glasses.
I'll invite the grandchildren. I'll come up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I want to make sure everyone can hear me, so I'll try. I'm very small, but I will. Yeah, I just wrote, oh gosh, Lori got me crying with that, so now I'm gonna have to pull it back together. But yeah, I just wrote, oh yeah, I'm Olivia, and I am daughter of Kim, his daughter. So I'll just start reading. I hadn't realized until recently just how much I am striving to be like my grandfather. I quietly hoped he would extend his care and softness to himself, and I think he did privately in ways that I wouldn't understand and don't need to. His body decided its work was done. He was released quickly into the next project. As a child, similar to Morgan, I watched him clean fish, pulling back the scaly flesh to reveal an intricate secret of living. He taught me to learn how things live and work. Dismantle, rebuild, observe, transform, reach the beating heart of the matter. Papa loved numbers and calculations with wonder and joy. Since his passing, I've been thinking a lot about math and how everything in nature has a pattern. His love of equations, the natural world, people, it was all entwined. I can feel him becoming a part of everything now, in the way he sought to understand everything with genuine passion. Though I'm grieving the loss of his gentle, strong physical form, I can rest assured that in essence, he is more than alive and well, because there is still so much to learn. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Annie. I am Chuck and Leslie's daughter. I will be reading When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly, our eyes briefly, see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink wisely. Our minds, formed and informed by the radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always regularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed.
Hello, I'm the very tall and grandson. I play baseball, not basketball. Thank you guys for being here today. First off, I would like to say I can't believe it's happened, man. I'm still in a lot of shock. And the best to describe it, it feels like a wounded animal, to be honest. It's really hurting, but I'll go ahead and bring my piece. There is so much I could say about how much my papa meant to me. He was my best friend, baseball comrade, early morning inventor, and most of all, my number one fan. I'm so sad that he's gone right now and will forever be in my heart for the rest of my life. But I know deep down in my heart that he's right by my side, even though he's not with us today. I hate how the world could do something like this, but it helps me remember to be grateful and compassionate for every day I get with loved ones like him. Mama, you guys meant the world to me, and I'm so honored that I got to have Mama and Papa days for the last 21 years. I know you'd be happy too. The last time I got to see my papa was a very special time for me. My grandparents from DC had made the trip up to surprise myself and Annie, and Mama and Papa also got to make the trip up too. There was a lot of laughter as whatever there was a lot of laughter for whatever joke my Papa J from DC was making. That I knew I had to take mental pictures at the time to remember the moments, because whenever I looked over at Papa, he was just enjoying his time. He was very simplistic man. Like what I mean by that is just he didn't need the whole world. He already had the whole world to him. And like I just find it so profound that I got to take mental pictures of that moment, because those will always be with me. I would do anything to get you back, Papa, but I know it's not in the rules of life. I will always cherish our relationships. And most importantly, love you forever. This isn't goodbye, it's until next time. And I know you'll always be in my heart, like the many phone calls we share. Thank you for the love and memories of being my role model, and I love you from the depths of my soul. Just sitting here today, I know it's been mentioned a lot about what would like Papa want us to do. He wants to be happy and enjoy each other's company. And I feel him very greatly in my heart every day. I wanted to tell a funny story before I left about, it was New Year's, we were at the Evans house, and this was the first time I saw the joy of what his laughter could bring to the whole family. We were playing a game of charades, and I remember the word was, it was biscuit. And my dad was enacting it out, so we had a very hard time getting it. So we went through buzz, quit, like over and over and over and over. And I just remember that energy being so pure and him laughing so hard, and probably the hardest I've ever laughed in my life. Like, just fun, man. Fun, 21 years, and it's going to be very hard without him. My dad mentioned earlier that I had the pleasure of giving him phone calls every now and then. I even had like stuffed animals I named after him. We had a very, very special bond, and I always remember those early mornings at Brown County. We would get up early. Well, now I'm in college early. That time we got it was like 6 a.m. It seems like 4 a.m. But he would cut the apples. We would talk about sport, watch sports, and we would just have a blast, man. It's just like the best. Your person, like that's what he meant to me. And I'm so sorry that he's gone, but I know he'll be with us forever. So I love you, Papa. I hope Mike Woodson, how you can pull it up for you this year. We'll be real firm down here. Thank you.
I'd never thought of it that way, but it's true that I have the choice of seeing the paper or putting this on. So thank you for that clarification. What a blessing. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you all for creating this garment we can wrap ourselves up with. And it is one of tears and laughter. It is one of meaning and hope, and it is one of loss and pain. But it is one of love. I invite you all into what is sacred in your own hearts for this prayerful time. Gracious Spirit of love and life, again, the curtain of death has fallen between us and one we love. Give us the strength and wisdom we need for this time of letting go. The strength to face and endure this difficult loss. And the wisdom to be with our grief and ample gratitude and appreciation for the vitality with which Chuck lived and laughed and shared with so many. We ask that everyone gathered here this afternoon be comforted by the spirit of this gathering and the greater spirit which calls us to love. And as we go into the world, may we each find comfort in that which never dies, but lives forever, and what gives us a glimpse of the eternal, the beauty of nature, the little breeze against our skin on a quiet day in June, the beauty of poetry and its aesthetic, the whisper of a deeper calling in life, the fragrance of flowers from the peony, the iris, and to the soon opening daylilies, to the exquisite splendor of music, all giving us just a glimpse of grace, a glimpse of the eternal. And may that speak to us clearly, that scriptural message, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. And so shall we be. My final words come from Rabindranath Tagore. Peace, my heart, let the time of parting be sweet. Let it not be a death, but a completeness. And let our love melt into memory, and our pain into song. And let the flight through the skies end in the folding of wings over the nest. With love and gratitude for the life that Chuck shared with so many. May it be so. And now we'll have, I think Amanda's going to have a back row exit. You'll just come up here and greet the family, and we'll just do the formal way of doing that. I know when I met the family earlier, we ended with singing the IU alma mater, but somebody you want to hum that as we go along. We know. It would be appreciated. Blessings, please come forward, and Andy will help you out. Let's go right up the road.
I just wanted to say you're all invited to Prince and my home for a reception afterwards. We're going to have sandwiches and lunches if you'd like to join us. I have it written down on pieces of paper. If you want to grab one, we'll come by and give you the address.